Right.
Welcome, everyone. My name is Professor Boris Tapia. I work at the Autonomous University of Real Estate. The four of us, the four professors, are with you today. Maria Elena Sanchez, Paulina Lechuga, and Betsy Yuri. Welcome to you all. This is a really important day for me, and I'm pretty sure it's for you too. This is the beginning of our COIL sessions, and I'm really pleased to be today. I want to introduce you. Paulina Lechuga, please say hi. Maria Elena Sanchez, please say hi. And Professor,
hi.
Please say hi.
Hello, everybody.
So, what are we doing today? Is the beginning for our synchronous sessions. I'm going to try to explain myself in Spanish and English, so every one of our students can be attending to the explanation. The same is going to happen with Professor Maria Elena, Professor Paulina, and Professor Betsy. So we've been discussing about what we're expecting to do on this workshop and trying to do the generals about what we expect to do by ourselves and try to offer to you. So if you let me, I want to share my screen so we can start for the beginning. So this workshop is called Landscape Design with a Gender Perspective. As you can see, we've been working together with four professors, trying to do the best so we can have this experience about international collaboration and education. La idea que tenemos en el taller es que exploremos los temas ambientales y sostenibilidad desde una perspectiva de género. Nosotros empezamos a trabajar este taller con anticipación y en este momento vamos a empezar con la discusión de los términos generales, de los conceptos generales que nos van a acompañar durante el resto del semestre. So for our foreign students and our national students here in Mexico, welcome. And we appreciate your effort to be here today. So, en este primer momento, vamos a revisar brevemente qué es el diseño colaborativo y cómo se lleva a cabo. De esto se trata esta primera sesión en mi parte. Posterior, la profesora Betsy Yuri va a platicarnos acerca de las componentes de género que van a incorporarse en el diseño. Y la semana siguiente, profesora Paulina y profesora María Elena hablarán acerca de temas de contexto. Maria Elena is going to discuss about what is Pachuca, the city we are here today. And Paulina is going to talk about the specific place we're going to be working on during this workshop. So, for me, it's a really good pleasure. I appreciate you to be here today. La pregunta que vamos a contestar es, what is collaborative landscape design? So, we're working on this basic guide. Every one of you are going to have access to this. So, I'm going to review. I'm going to go from definitions. This is the thing that I want to do today. So, muchas de las cosas que nosotros consumimos en el día a día, many things we consume, we are producing together. Y muchas de estas personas trabajan desde distintas disciplinas, distintos enfoques disciplinares. Muchos trabajan simultáneamente en la búsqueda de encontrar la mejor respuesta posible. De eso se trata, colaborar. This is what collaboration is about. El diseño colaborativo es un reto, porque no necesariamente se reduce solamente a trabajar juntos con un enfoque o un destino común, sino además se necesita que todos conozcamos y manejemos el mismo lenguaje. Si queremos colaborar, lo que tenemos que saber primero es en qué consiste colaborar, y a la vez diferenciarlas de otras acciones, como por ejemplo coordinar o cooperar. Cuando hablamos de coordinar, por ejemplo, when we talk about coordination or cooperation, and what is different is from collaborative design is based on the next thing. So I'm going to do fast for our definitions. Cooperation is about information relationships that exist without a commonly defined mission, structure, or effort. Under cooperation, la información se comparte de acuerdo con lo que se requiere y cada organización retiene de una manera la autoridad. And the resources are separate from the words. Under coordination, we have more formal relationships in the standard of compatible missions. Some planning and division of roles are required, and communication channels are established. Authority still rests with individual organization. But when we're trying to collaborate, this can be a little harder. We have to fulfill a multi-level and pervasive relationship. We need to have full commitment to a common mission, and the authority is determined by the collaborative structure. So this is under this one author here, and you can find it under this document en la bibliografía, on our resources. So, this is lo que vamos a hacer. Nosotros vamos a trabajar bajo un esquema de colaboración. We're working under collaboration schema. Background. Always is necessary to know a little bit about what are we working today based on what we've been working in the past. So, many of you, I'm pretty sure you have listened about the Bauhaus movement that started in the 19th century. Maybe is Walter Gropius was the main actor here. Ellos buscaban crear edificios, elementos de diseño, elementos muebles que pudieran solucionar las necesidades del día a día. Y muchas de estas personas que participaban lo hacían desde distintos puntos de vista. En su momento, la Bauhaus fue un movimiento cultural que se basaba de forma explícita en la colaboración y la interdisciplina, y que además tenía acercamientos muy propios acerca de la arquitectura y el diseño, pero no solamente en función de obtener algo bello o algo útil, sino además en búsqueda siempre de un cambio social. Nowadays, design, in particular architectural design, are practices strongly influenced by Bauhaus principles in the sense of involve a lot of participants from different disciplines who work with a common goal. Today, in architecture, we work with engineers, landscapers, and so many other disciplines here and now. So, las referencias actuales para lo que corresponde con el diseño y la innovación requieren y demandan de múltiples disciplinas, múltiples visiones disciplinares. Collaborators work together for moments, as Juan says. Then they divide and go separate ways. Los participantes actúan como individuos expertos. They have the very own specific discipline. So they're studying the process from the discipline, but they're trying to solve a designing problem, working together from a specific moment in specific periods of time. Lo que va a ocurrir con nuestro proceso, what's going to happen with our process, is we want to have specific moments for participation, and then collaborators are going to go separated from different disciplines and try to accomplish some direct consequences of what they're doing. So this is un esquema. Este esquema de aquí muestra cómo funciona el trabajo colaborativo. Tenemos un punto de inicio, a stop point on the period of time. We're making a meta planning. So based on meta planning, we have to negotiate. If we have individuals or teamworks that are working separately, but they also are trying to accomplish a goal. I mean, they have to work together for a small period of time, and they go together and evaluate. So if the evaluation goes well, we can see this is the end of the collaboration process. Or if we have to evaluate and go back to negotiate or meta planning, the process starts over again. And finally, el proceso de colaboración es dinámico, pero las acciones ocurren en periodos muy cortos. Se integran dentro de momentos de negociación y evaluación. En algún momento es probable que estas colaboraciones sean más cercanas. En otros momentos es probable que sean un poco más lejanas. Nevertheless, contributors act as ideal experts who address design issues from their very own perspective. So our disciplinary fields can be, and we're expecting to be working together during the complete process that starts today and ends by November. To finish this exposition, I'm going to show you what we've been working on here in Mexico with our students in the Autonomous University, so we can all see how everything started with the process of designing and how it's going to end and what are we expecting to accomplish for this next couple of months. What we start doing is gathering some site information. Eso es lo que empezamos a hacer siempre que hacemos arquitectura. We need to know where are we and we are going to expect to find here. So the first thing consists of a survey for trying to drawing up all natural and building elements found in the city. Trees, rushes, hedges, sidewalks, benches, everything we have to find. This is a small place for planning, for designing. It's limited by a couple of roads. Paulina is going to explain you a little deeply what we have found here on this place. Por ahora, lo que vamos a ver solamente es el proceso general. Una vez que nosotros terminamos de hacer el levantamiento arquitectónico, once we completed the survey, we can have access to another levels of knowledge about what's going on here and what we expect to be working here once we start doing our designing process. Nosotros podemos tomar fotografías aéreas, podemos hacer mediciones, etcétera, para entender mejor el lugar. Some of the urban facilities and services we found here, they are really important for our people here in Mexico. Even it's a small place, is full with services, activities, and people are working together, are really close to this place, parks, schools, public markets. También hay personas que realizan actividades diversas, que incluyen, por ejemplo, formas de comercio, que incluyen usos del espacio público distintos, y está bastante complejo lo que podemos encontrar. Even it's a small place, so we can find this greatness, and it makes the designing process really interesting to me. Además, necesitamos conocer un poco más acerca de nuestro clima y tiempo aquí en el espacio de trabajo. We need to know, and we need to find out about the trees, about the species, and about the environmental processing and issues we can have. So we studied the environmental pollution, we studied deforestation, warming, etc. We know a little bit more about temperature, relative humidity, rainfall patterns, etc. And we need to know how this works together so we can have the best designing process as possible as we can find. Also, we try to find out a little more about stakeholders. We try to make some questions to specific people for working here. Aunque ellos están en distintos tiempos y distintos tiempos, podemos buscarlos y podemos entenderlos si es que aprendemos a mirar un poco con detalle y con cuidado. Una de las maneras de hacerlo es, hola Andrea. Una de las maneras de hacerlo es encontrar huellas de sus actividades. We call this desire lines. When people are working and doing something in a public space, especially in public space, they leave traces on the path. So if we are conscious and we look close, we can find them and we can see, oh, here, somebody's working here, or somebody's playing soccer here, or somebody's walking around. And this is the shortest distance between these 2 points. So in the designing process, we need to know about this. And we need to ask people about what they're doing and what they expect to do. This is what we talk about when we found the stakeholders and what's going on in public space. Next, once we know a little bit more about the site, we can start making some questions about what we're expecting to find here and what we expect to find once the project is done. So knowing the site allows us to begin the collaborative design process. This is this part when we are just trying to know a little bit more about the space is crucial. But once we started, we have to think about design. And we're going to do this whole process of designing together. Entonces, nosotros elaboramos un discurso. We create an scenario possibility. Y podemos crear una narración. Podemos escribir un texto. We can start making some mind maps and stuff like that. So we can try to express ourselves about what we're expecting to do. How is like to find generated and sustainable public space. This narrative allows us, both designers and non-designers, to be together a vision of the future. So it's recommended to be made in a short time, and with the help of a team leader who can organize ideas. All participants can launch. Por eso, this is the reason why we suggest to use a mind map. Por eso vamos a utilizar, por ejemplo, herramientas colaborativas como Miro, Canva, etc., donde podemos trabajar juntos y plantear esta visión de futuro, esta narración en un mapa mental. Lo siguiente, next, nosotros vamos a trabajar, a escoger elementos clave para nuestro proceso de diseño. Y esto lo vamos a hacer igual juntos. Vamos a tener oportunidad de decidir choosing landscape design elements. This is because not all elements for landscape design allow solving the problem based on sustainability criteria or the perspective. Hay muchos elementos de diseño, por ejemplo, bancas de parques, por ejemplo, basureros, por ejemplo, pavimentos, for example, benches, or for example, even some trees, you know, that doesn't allow solving the problem based on a gender perspective or based on the landscaping sustainability criteria. Entonces, escogerlos, saber cuáles son los más adecuados, es muy importante. Cada equipo, each team will define the plant palette, is something as is shown here. I'm going to show you closer. Lighting, furniture, pavement, materials, ornamental elements, etc. That will be part of this collaborative project. Este es un ejemplo. This is an example of how we be working on. Este es un huerto. Este es un espacio para cultivar plantas. This is where we grow plants. We can do different kind of plants. We can have, for example, small trees. We can have ornamental flowers and so on. And we can start to trying to making some decisions about designing how they are connected to each other, so we can have the best expression possible, and also be working with the people here trying to offer our design. Finalmente, con base en los mapas mentales y lo que hemos decidido acerca de las cualidades más deseables del espacio público, vamos a construir juntos estos esquemas de diseño. Finally, we're going to put all this together and we're going to make a big picture of what we're expecting to find here. Y esta imagen final, this final image, is called the final process for this first moving process, que is making sonic scheme. We can use a number of graphical resources, even if we are not familiar with architectural design. Anyone can draw, so anyone can design. Based on that idea, we can be working together, people who are more useful to find this expression with the pens and drawing, etc. So we can add all the analysis we've been doing. We can have the weather factors with vegetation, with shadow analysis, with side analysis, and try to put them all together. And we are going to complete schemes like this here on my right. We are making it's maybe close to the place. It's not necessarily the exact place, but we can have some ideas about how the different areas are working together so they don't compete with each other. And every one of our people who are working here can access to a community garden, a space place where they can walk around planting. Maybe if we have a school or if we have a playing area, how these two areas work together. So our people who are doing here the things, they can feel safe and they can be participating under the same idea. This is the final stage for this first moment here during this month. We're going to work with different applications. It can be used for collaborative design as Miro, as Canva, or maybe if you have a leader, it can be working with his computer, or if he can access or she can access to a Padlet, we can be working with drawing, and we can try to understand better how are we expecting to this public space to be working. Finally, to be closing, the question is going to be, well, una vez que terminamos esto, entonces, ¿qué sigue? El proceso continúa después del ejercicio de zonificación. After zoning, we keep working for the November. So maybe some of you are used to working with drawing skills, but not everyone. It's not a big problem. Maybe some of you, even if you are not working with architectures or not studying architecture, know how to draw, and it's going to be really amazing. You can start making drawings. So, lo que se espera es que la relación de trabajo continúe, pero que tengamos retroalimentación semanal. Week after week, we expect to have feedback. So, all of you, maybe in small teams, can be designing what's going to be going on next and making some decisions and finish your existence. As you can listen to here in Mexico, so this happens all the time. This is pretty much I have to share with you today. I expect I've been clear, but if I'm not, be sure your classmates from Mexico know a little bit more about what I was trying to express about how to make design decisions, and we can be working together so we can accomplish our goal we have for this project. It's been working together in order to design a public space based on gender perspective and based on criteria of sustainability. So this is pretty much I have for you today. I'm going to ask Betsy to keep on with this first session. Betsy, please.
Yes, well, thank you so much. And I'm here today to share information on some of the gendered perspectives on use of public space. And what I've done is posted some information to a Padlet, and there's an English version and a good attempt at a Spanish version, but I acknowledge that my translation skills aren't perfect. So please give me a little grace in the terminology. What I'm going to do, because I'm speaking in English, is I'm going to actually put the Spanish version up on the screen so that can be more helpful for those who are less good at oral English to be following along. But I did put in the chat the link to both the English and the Spanish version if you want to follow along or pull that up later. So let me move my screen so I can navigate. All right. When we're thinking about some gendered public spaces, I really appreciate the approach from this article on greening plans for public spaces that talks about public spaces as having 3 simultaneous foci when you're designing this. And designers get to decide which ones get emphasized. And certainly there is always an ornamental focus that we're taking into account, socialized aesthetics and the impact of appearance on the space. And people of different gender identities and ethnic identities and cultures respond to the ornamental aspects of public spaces in different ways. And then there's also a focus on the multi-functions of the space, both ecologically sustainable and also the functional use by the members. This might include the use for social and recreational purposes, cultural purposes like music and celebrations or the arts, educational purposes, including health fairs or political speeches, and meeting basic needs, especially if you think about community gardens as parts of public spaces. And then, especially in relation to this class, there's that focus on inclusivity, the social and environmental justice issues, inclusion, broader participation and use, and also the safety and care. Related to that inclusive focus are some different ways of thinking about justice. And so there is recognitional justice, that urban greenscapes are designed with an understanding of the local community and the cultural and social history of it, the norms and values of the region, and a commitment to equity and inclusion and care. A park that exists in the Central Valley of California is going to have different elements to it than one that's in Mexico because of the cultural and regional histories that are there. And so we need to be paying attention to those contexts and having gender be overtly considered in those intersectional ways with age and class and religion and other identities. There's also an issue of distributional justice, that diverse community members all have public spaces that are welcoming and accessible and user-friendly for them, that they meet the diverse needs of the community rather than only a subgroup of the population. And gender is actively recognized as a core factor in this. And then the last one is the procedural justice. The community members have a role in determining how urban green spaces are designed and maintained and funded, how they're patrolled or controlled, and how they're evaluated. And that expertise related to the use and design of space is really diversely defined, that in many places, those who have official roles around these things are often of very particular groups of folks, highly educated people, often men, and the expertise of the local community and of folks who work in nonprofits needs to be included as part of procedural justice. I know that all of us did some projects looking up terms of gender and environment and sustainability, but just as a reminder, when we're talking about gender, we're looking at the social, cultural, and psychological attributes and roles and behaviors and expectations and identities that different societies consider appropriate for individuals based upon their perceived or self-identified sex. And when we're approaching the design of public spaces from a gendered perspective, we're considering and analyzing how public spaces impact different genders, how they can be designed and managed and utilized to promote gender equality, inclusivity, and well-being of all. And the perspective acknowledges that public spaces are not neutral, and they can have different effects on people based on their gender, their sexual orientation, and their sex. And this can reinforce or challenge existing norms and power dynamics. And so when we look at some of the differences in use of public space, there are differences that depend a lot based on cultural and regional and individual factors. But if you look at a lot of the research, much of what you'll see will be tied to safety concerns. And I have a couple slides that will get into those a little more detail. Family roles, especially the responsibilities for care for children and older adults and relatives with disabilities. Globally, the research shows that women are more likely to go to public spaces with children and with older adults that they're caring for. And men are more likely to go individually or with peers or partners of their same relative age. There's also studies on the recreation preferences, team sports and high energy activities, low impact activities, organized games, general socializing, cultural activities and celebrations, and service activities. People use parks for exercise and fitness, and there's gender differences in the intensity and type of those activities. A lot of issues tied to social dynamics, individual versus group use, degrees of interactions with strangers in those spaces, norms for dating behaviors. In some communities, the public spaces are the most appropriate place for folks to go for dating activities. In other places, those are seen as taboo to be used for that purpose. The next section is on access and amenities. How are restrooms and changing facilities, seating, shelter, water and food, athletic facilities, curb cuts, parking, bus stops, all of these different kinds of physical things that are in a space. There are also cultural norms that may be affecting things. And then finally, time constraints, especially tied to work and household responsibilities. Women and children much more likely to use the park spaces in the day as opposed to using them at night. Often, the gendered focus on parks and public spaces includes some safety audits for women. And people go in and ask questions like, why do I or don't I like this place? When and why do I feel comfortable? What changes would make me safer? We're going to have an activity where we're going to talk about a space that you go to that you feel is inclusive, and might be asking some of these questions to yourself about what makes this an inclusive space. When you engage in audits, it's great to have a diverse group of people that are walking through there, looking at it from different perspectives, whether or not, they are, based on their gender, based on their ethnicity, their age, their citizenship status, their physical abilities, those with and without child or elder care responsibilities. And they're especially looking at a variety of things, including lighting, sight lines, how far you can see from different kinds of angles, isolation, security, or whether there's neighborhood watch, possible assault sites, possible escape routes, maintenance and cleanliness, signage, whether there are local or wild animals involved, accessibility, parking and transportation, emergency services, increasingly how good technology is there. Is there internet access? Is there cell phone access there? And then just overall ease of navigation of the site. When evaluating spaces for green-friendly and women-friendly spaces, we want to think about accessibility, safety, and usability. And And then note for this class, we're also focusing on sustainability as a continued action of this. And accessibility includes accommodating people with disabilities, but it also includes other things as well. How easy is it to maneuver strollers or wheelchairs? Is the terrain appropriate for toddlers or the elderly, those caring for children or carrying lots of supplies around with them? Is it close to public transportation? Are there sidewalks? How do the seasons or weather or time of day affect use? Security issues are always there, gender differences in the types of safety concerns that people express and the harms that they experience in public parks. And also in their caretaking responsibilities, that some security includes, fencing that keeps kids from running out into the streets. And then finally, usability. What is available in the space and what are people able to bring into it? And this is a really hard graph to look at, but I just wanted to draw attention to some research that, tries to look at not just, who is there by gender, but also by age. And so what this graph is showing is children are the bright blue, teens are orange, adults are gray, and seniors are this yellow topic. And they show, if you're talking about playing soccer or skating or baseball or using a pool or walking paths or, different kinds of resources, that who uses it differs by gender and age. And so that we need to take a variety of different factors into account when we're looking at the gendered socialized norms that people are engaging in spaces and personal preferences. And finally, around the gender perspectives of public safety, this was an interesting study that was asking people, of all of the different elements of communities, what are the things that are high or very high in their sense of safety? What are the things that you take into account? And for women, there were many that were important to them, and they focused in a variety of different categories that included the visibility factors, how bright it was, how dark it was in the space, what the artificial lighting is, how visible they can see others. They had maintenance concerns around the condition of equipment. They had concerns about protection, police patrols or video surveillance, and how other people in the space were protecting one another. They were interested in, people, drinking alcohol or disturbing the peace in different sort of spaces. They also cared a lot about park paths and, ramps and lifts and those kinds of things. And there were statistically significant differences between what men and women cared about in many different ways. And so while we know that, there aren't strict gender roles to what people do, it's important to, be following along and knowing what people are doing. Oh, and now I am seeing after doing that you couldn't see the whole Padlet as I was talking. I am so sorry. I wish somebody had verbally interrupted me on that. Follow along on your own Padlets.
If you want me, I can share my screen so I can take a preview, from all this concept you have been sharing with us.
Okay, well, here, I can run back through that really quickly.
I have here, if you want me to.
Okay, all right, that's great.
Let me share my desktop with all of you, and we can go up and then start looking at this. So you can see my screen, right? Okay. So you were talking about this focus espacios verdes públicos at the beginning. Then we're discussing the justice-based urban greening. I find this really interesting. How we have this strategic guiding values, use and perceptions, and decision making and participation. Then I love this this gender unicorn. And you want to comment something else, Betsy, please, if you want.
No, I think this is great. I mean, I know that you all, tried to define gender and explore the different issues. And, we just need to recognize that in different cultural contexts, what is appropriate, viewed as appropriate self-identification, what assumptions of people's roles and activities and behaviors and interests are often tied to cultural beliefs around what males and females, what is masculine and feminine are. But a lot of these are changing. And as they're changing, there are generational divides around some of these things. And some of that will influence how people want to use public space and evaluate how other people are using those public spaces that they're sharing with each other.
I also like a lot of this topic, the common differences based on the use of public spaces. You were discussing about this 8 factors, áreas claves de tensión, as you were saying. Then you discuss about the women safety audits. There's something I was thinking about when you were discussing this, Betsy. It's about these questions we are making all the time. You know, why do you or you don't like this place? How you feel comfortable here? And try to do this in order to find a better scenario for our designing process. I think it can be really useful.
Right. And when we think about our favorite spaces, where we go and where we don't go, and what makes us feel welcomed in a space, as well as what makes us feel safe in a space. And some of this is tied to gender, but some of it's tied to age and language skills and cultural preferences and all sorts of things. So, you know, from my discipline, gender is an important factor, but it's how that intersects with all of these other things as well.
You're right. Also, I'm thinking maybe if we can recognize some places we can feel comfortable, and then we can translate or move this particularity, this specific ideas we found in a specific place to another, and try to think how they can be useful for everyone as is useful in the first place. And here about the evaluation of the green areas. Accessibility, safety, and usability are 3 basic factors. And all that you were discussing, I think, is completely relevant for us, for our project. So if we go on, you were saying this color here.
Yep. So sorry about that, not having that in front of you. So what this is showing, and side-by-side columns, the left column is males and the right column is females within each paired group. And then colors, the blue are the youngest children, the orange are teens, gray are adults, and the top yellow that you hardly ever see are the senior citizens. And it's just giving us a visual representation of knowing that different people of different identities use space in different ways. And so if we're trying to get to that, inclusive justice sense of our public spaces, how amongst the facilities and opportunities that are available in a community do the diverse needs get met by gender, by age, by a variety of other identities?
And also, not everything is happening at the same time. There are specific users of public space are working maybe on weekends, and some others are like small kids or children are working on the public space during the afternoon, maybe it is close to the neighborhood and they're living close to the city. And finally, you were discussing this perception of safety in the public space.
Right, and these tie to, how is the space set up? How well is it maintained? How protected do people feel in that space? There are lots of different factors that fit into this, but a lot of it is, different safety in the daytime and the nighttime, in good weather and bad weather. And so there isn't just one answer to, do you feel safer? Is this right? There's lots of different ways to look at this. And so as you're evaluating the space, as you're designing the space, think about approaching this from different identities. If I was a parent, if I was an elderly person, if I didn't speak the local language, how would I facilitate the space? How would I feel differently in the daytime or nighttime, or if it was raining? And so just thinking about the different lenses through which somebody might participate and engage with the spot.
Correct. Thank you, Betsy. Do you want to add something else, or maybe we can stop sharing my screen? Okay. So, María Elena, Paulina, ¿quieren alguien de ustedes aportar algo más?
Sí, únicamente aclarar y que quede en la grabación, hay algún estudiante que comenta que el ICBI debe escucharles y que no debemos obligarles a reunirse. Entonces, quiero aclarar que al inicio de esta reunión se comentó que no es una obligación y que si en algún momento ellos desean no reunirse, no ocurre nada con ellos, no habrá ningún tipo de represalia. Por el contrario, estamos buscando darles oportunidades de educación y la idea es apoyar, les escuchamos, los respetamos y cuando ellos decidan después del conflicto, estaremos atentos para dar retroalimentación con todo gusto, sin ningún tipo de obligación. Es cuanto. Gracias.
A usted, María Elena. Paulina, ¿quieres agregar algo?
Sí, nada más, creo que el posible resultado de los proyectos de esta intervención van a ser particularmente interesantes desde el punto de vista arquitectónico y sociológico, porque al unir estas dos disciplinas, creo que el espacio público puede ser como mucho mejor utilizado, porque creo que particularmente hablando, este espacio está súper subutilizado. Entonces, Betsy, I believe that everything you showed us was very interesting, and we will be applying this in the design. And what is interesting for me is that not only we have what already exists, but by evaluating everything about I don't know, justice and accessibility, safety, everything that you taught us today, we can like construct a different approach of architectural design. So I believe that the results will be very, very interesting. Thank you.
Para terminar, ¿algún estudiante que quiera tomar la palabra y que tenga algún comentario que hacer, independientemente del tema que estamos tratando en el taller?
Sí, a mí me gustaría decir algo. Bueno, lo voy a decir en inglés. Um, we are very excited to work with you. This is a big opportunity for all of us. But, well, as you may be aware, quite a few of our fellow students have opted to not join this video call, so we'll be representing them. Their absence is not due to a lack of disinterest. Just like us, they have put in a tremendous amount of effort to follow the responsibilities and the work. I want to reiterate that we are currently on an indefinite strike. So apart from this particular instance, we want to be able to collaborate with you until the issues at the university are resolved and our counselor addresses the students' demands. We hope you can understand our position, and we sincerely apologize of any inconvenience that this situation may cause in your plans. Once the situation is resolved, we are more than willing to put in extra effort to make up for any missed opportunities. And that's all. Estamos muy contentos por estar trabajando con la Universidad de California. También estamos apoyando a nuestros compañeros. Y pues es todo. Estaremos trabajando hasta que pues esta situación se resuelva y pues pondremos un extra si es necesario para este, pues sí, por lo que no trabajaremos este periodo, ¿no? Y ya, es todo. Muchas gracias por entendernos a nuestra directora y a nuestros profesores. Creo que se han portado de la mejor manera con nosotros. Y también por entender a los compañeros que decidieron no estar aquí, ¿no? Y ya, es todo. Respetamos igual mucho el trabajo de la universidad y pues por eso igual queríamos estar presentes para no faltar al respeto a sus tiempos, ¿no? Ya, es todo.
Lo apreciamos mucho, Itsuri. We really appreciate your effort. ¿Alguien más que quiera tomar la palabra? Continuamos la grabación y va a estar subido íntegramente el video.
And please know that, you know, I am very supportive of people engaging in social activism and doing things to support their rights and their learning and their safety and their self-care. And, you know, we have a lot of strikes going on in the United States right now and do have histories of student strikes. And I, you know, I'm supportive of people getting their voice out and trying to resolve conflicts and address structural problems that exist in societies. And, you know, that's what my discipline of gender studies is about. That's what I believe in personally. And, you know, before we got on this webinar today, you know, we had some conversations about, you know, wanting to, you know, adjust this project as need be to allow everybody to engage in learning and the strike and other things as need be. You know, our goal as professors is your well-being as well as your ability to learn. And we will make adjustments as we need to support both of those. That, you know, deadlines are less important than well-being and learning. And so we'll be flexible. And quite honestly, the Stan State students will be really interested in what you're experiencing. And if you have things to share with us about the conditions that you're experiencing and the actions you're taking, I'm sure my students would learn a lot from that, because we need everybody to be better self-advocates for their rights and developing those skills of listening to people that we disagree with and trying to find common grounds and ways to solve problems. This is an amazingly important thing to learn to do. And I hope that it's I hope that it's an experience that you feel safe and supported through, even, you know, as you're dealing with contentious issues. But we're here to support your learning, and, you know, there will not be penalties from anything that I am interested in based on your trying to be good self-advocates.
Sí, de hecho, yo pienso que esta es una buena oportunidad en la que podamos comprendernos mejor. This is an excellent opportunity. Our students here in Mexico can express themselves and try to teach everyone else what is going on here at the university. And si ustedes quieren tomar la palabra, con mucho gusto, adelante. Cuéntenos a todos, a los estudiantes de Stan State, lo mismo que a los estudiantes de la Universidad Autónoma del Estado de Hidalgo, qué es lo que viven en este momento y cuáles son sus preocupaciones en el futuro de la universidad. Adelante, por favor, pueden tomar la palabra cualquiera de ustedes.
Yes, I have a commentary about this situation. My partner Itsuri mentioned that this is the time of work, but if the situation can be a result or anything for the students, the next can be the next meet over Zoom. My partners, in general, my team can assist for another meet because the situation is complicated, is hard, and in Spanish can be say this part.
Yes, of course.
Oh, thank you. Bueno, queremos darles las gracias y queremos igual hablar sobre por qué sí decidimos presentarnos, porque apreciamos el esfuerzo de ustedes, de nosotros en asistir al lugar, en sacar el site analysis, el levantamiento topográfico, toda esa parte, y estamos muy emocionados, pero sí queremos respetar esa parte de una solución y pues más que nada creo que todos nuestros compañeros y me incluyo apoyamos lo que Tsuri comentó y estuvimos de acuerdo en expresarlo en esa situación. Y sería todo. Thank you.
Gracias.
Gracias, Andrea. Gracias a usted. ¿Alguien más quiere tomar la palabra? Yo tengo que decir que para mí es un día agridulce. It's a bittersweet day for me. We were really expecting today to start working together, and we were working hard, I don't know, day after day, trying to make the best of, for this situation. Pero mis alumnos no están aquí y eso realmente me pone muy triste. Pero sé que ellos van a estar muy contentos de saber que nosotros respetamos su posición, que la valoramos mucho, que entendemos y que en efecto, como dice la profesora Betsy, es parte de nuestra forma de entender la educación, basada en la libertad, en el criterio y en el respeto, ¿verdad? Entonces, bajo esas condiciones, siéntanse ustedes completamente respaldados en lo que corresponde con la asignatura, que tienen la posibilidad de expresarse libremente y este puede ser un muy buen momento. Si alguien más quiere tomar la palabra, adelante, sin ningún problema. En español o en inglés, as you want.
Don't worry.
Yo, pues nada más para cerrarlo, y creo que no hemos mencionado bien las razones. Pues nada, que apoyamos a nuestros compañeros de artes visuales, de artes en general, del Instituto de Artes, que pues fueron violentados el día martes y que pues han sido ignorados, con sus demandas. Y pues ya es todo. Los apoyamos y pues ahí está el pliego petitorio, pues,
Si
y sigue
tienen,
con los compañeros.
tienen ustedes el pliego petitorio y quieren dar lectura también, por supuesto, adelante. Si conocen las demandas y las quieren exponer, por supuesto, adelante. I'm not quite sure if here we have
Sí, sí. Perdón, ¿eh?
no, por favor, Itzel, adelante.
Sí, bueno, como comunidad universitaria del Instituto de Ciencias Básicas e Ingeniería, tenemos 3 puntos que son los más importantes, que es la destitución de Esteban Rodríguez Dávila, presidente del Consejo Estudiantil. La segunda, el cumplimiento de las demandas establecidas por el Instituto de Artes y todos los institutos asociados al paro, destacando como prioritaria el que se le retire del cargo a María Teresa Paulín Ríos. Y el tercero, exigimos garantizar la integridad de los estudiantes que se manifiestan y permanecen a las afueras de ICBI, así como de los estudiantes en otros institutos y escuelas superiores. Solicitamos a los miembros del instituto que se mantengan en comunicación con todos los grupos oficiales y evitar caer en información falsa. Pues mantenemos el apoyo de la comunidad universitaria y pues siempre nos estaremos sumando al paro indefinido.
Gracias, Itsuri. I was saying, I'm not quite sure if you have here Stanford University students. What do you have, Stanford University students? Please, if you have something to add, and express yourselves also about what's going on here in Mexico right now. Please go ahead. We're listening to yours. Si no tenemos más participaciones, voy a finalizar la grabación en este momento. Darle las gracias a Betsy, María Elena y Paulina, una vez más, a todos nuestros estudiantes que han decidido asistir el día de hoy de manera libre y voluntaria, sin coacción de ningún tipo. Además, por supuesto, a Oscar, nuestra mano derecha, nuestro colaborador cercanísimo en este proceso de COIL aquí en la universidad, y a todas y todos los demás, darles a conocer nuestro afecto, nuestro compromiso, nuestro apoyo en lo que corresponde específicamente dentro de lo que conocen ustedes en la universidad como parte de su programa educativo. María Elena es nuestra coordinadora y tenemos la suerte de que ella sea parte de este proceso COIL. Entonces, sepan ustedes que todo esto se desarrolla en el marco más completo y más complejo que podemos darles acerca de su seguridad como estudiantes. This is all for me today. I have to let's see. I want to thank Maria Elena and Paulina also, and every one of you, your students, our students. We're caring you. we are also all the time taking us. Y para próximos días, quizás nos volvamos a ver. Procuraremos continuar con las sesiones establecidas previamente. Si ustedes tienen la amabilidad de estudiantes de contactar a sus maestras y a mí, para que nos den a conocer su posición acerca de qué es lo que esperan que ocurra en estos talleres en las próximas semanas, cómo pueden o no participar, si es que ustedes son tan amables, por favor háganlo, y estaremos pendientes de su respuesta para que podamos comunicarnos con la profesora Betsy y lleguemos a un acuerdo que nos pueda dar a conocer un poco más de lo que ustedes demandan y también, ¿por qué no? Si es del caso, continuar con el proceso COIL. A todas y todos ustedes, muchas gracias y que tengan un muy buen día.
Gracias, gracias Boris por todo el trabajo que le has metido y gracias María Elena también, gracias Betsy, porque creo que es una gran oportunidad. Ojalá, de verdad, de corazón, podamos seguir trabajando en este proyecto porque sí se le han metido mucho tiempo, esfuerzo, cariño, todo, ¿no? Pero bueno, aquí estamos.